A very good morning to you. Welcome to the West Ham Voice on Monday morning. I'm actually recording this quite late on Sunday night. I'm watching the Super Bowl and it's half time. Philadelphia Eagles are smashing Kansas City Chiefs at the moment. If I can stay awake, I'll probably watch the rest of that, but we'll see how I get along. But in the meantime, what I wanted to do was a brief video update for you. And it's about what Potter's doing and the injuries that we've got and the team spirit that he's creating and building. Now, Potter continues to ring the changes at West Ham. Where previous head coach Julen Lopetegui hardly gave players any time off, one of the gripes that most of the squad had, Potter has gone the complete opposite by acknowledging that players could do with some downtime, especially over the weekend that's just passed when we were not involved in FA Cup action. Now, in a recent interview, Graham Potter highlighted the importance of the squad forming a bond, a sense of togetherness. He acknowledges that there is quite a lot of talent at the club, which has helped the team get through the lean times after incurring so many injuries. But at the same time, he also acknowledges that there is more talent to return because of injuries, and some are returning sooner rather than later. And after being granted a few days off from training, West Ham players reported back to Rush Green on Sunday, and it was good to see three players in particular. Now, in the last game against Chelsea, Lucas Paqueta didn't train all the way up to that game, so he was missing, and Edson Alvarez had to pull out of the lineup just shortly before kickoff. However, we saw both players returning to Rush Green on Sunday. And they were these are stills of the video that was shot, and they were being asked who they thought was going to win the Super Bowl between Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. And a third player who's been injured for a while, but also appeared at Rush Green, was Jean-Clair Todibo. Now, whilst Paqueta and Alvarez are expected to be fit and ready for the game against Brentford at the weekend, it's uncertain how close Todibo might be to full recovery. He spent quite a bit of time in France, getting fit in gym training, etc. So probably what's happened at Rush Green, he's just been checked for his fitness levels. Who knows? Maybe he's ready to return a bit earlier than scheduled. That would be great. But if we were to have all three players back, along with James Ward Prowse returning from his loan spell at Nottingham Forest, as well as Evan Ferguson joining us on loan from Brighton, then all of a sudden, Graham Potter has a wealth of real talent to be able to call on. Now, in the last game against Chelsea, we saw another player returning from injury, and that, of course, was Jarrod Bowen. His goal gave us a great chance to get a win at Stamford Bridge, but as with previous seasons, the officiating and VAR thought otherwise. Bitter? Nah, let's leave it behind us. Of course, we're still without Crescencio Somerville, Nicholas Fulkrug and Mikel Antonio, but what a boost it would be to see the return of Alvarez, Paqueta and Todibo alongside the return of Bowen. Now, this could be one of the first games that Potter might be faced with a bit of a selection headache since taking over the reins at West Ham. Now, let's remind ourselves of the team that faced Chelsea last Monday. Of course, they included we still think it's a bit of a makeshift back three, two full-backs and a centre-back in Soufal, Creswell, either side of Kilman. But the Iron Brew Iniesta, Andy Irving, got his start and he did exceptionally well. In fact, to be quite honest with you, I can't fault any player last Monday. I think they all put a great deal of effort in. And with Bowen up front, he was supported by Kudus and Flair. Now, if we have all these players back, how could the team look like going forward? Well, all of a sudden, you got Todibo back in the centre, maybe Kilman out on the right, and maybe Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Kilman out on the left, and maybe Aaron Wan-Bissaka on the right. And then you could bring in Ferguson, supported by Kudus and Paqueta. And then you could have Bowen out on the right-hand side and Emerson on the left. And the balance in the middle would be Souček and Alvarez. But would you actually see someone like Bowen playing in that kind of a wing back role? I don't know. It's possible, but I'm not quite sure that that would happen. What's more likely with a player that returned from suspension is that you might see maybe Mavropanos at the back, which would allow Aaron Wan-Bissaka to be in his kind of wing backish type role. And then again at the back, Todibo and Kilman. And then maybe on the bench would be Ferguson. You could use Ferguson from the bench. And then you could have someone like Bowen, who's supported by Kudus and Paqueta. So you could have that kind of lineup. But also, you could have other changes. For example, you could see Mavropanos, maybe keeping Kilman at the centre of the back, because as I said, he's played quite well. He's played pretty decently there, and maybe Potter may want to keep him as in the centre of a back three. And there you can bring Cresswell back in. He's done no wrong really with Mavropanos either side, and again Wan-Bissaka in his wing back role, and so on. Again, what Potter has got available to him, he's got other options. He could keep faith with the back three that started against Chelsea: Soufal, Cresswell, and again Kilman being the pivot in the back three, and then the rest of the team as was: Wan-Bissaka, Emerson, wing backs, Bowen up front. Now, with players coming back, Potter has now got the opportunity to be able to change the formation if he so desired. He could, for example, go with a 4-2-3-1, where you could see maybe a little bit stronger, because not a lot of people are too happy with Mavropanos at the moment. And I'm not so sure he'll get that many more starts. But what you can do is you can play a back four, where you've got Wan-Bissaka on the right, Emerson on the left, Todibo and Kilman as the central defenders. And then the two pivots, Souček and Alvarez. And then further forward, imagine playing Ferguson and he's surrounded by the likes of Bowen, Kudus just behind him, and Paqueta on the slightly on the left. That's quite mouth-watering as well. You can go further. You could put, I mean, for keep the back four as said. You could maybe put Kudus on the right hand side and put Bowen just behind Ferguson. Now, I don't think that's likely to happen because you got a little bit more defensive sort of cover if you had Bowen on the right hand side and keep Kudus in the middle. And Kudus in the middle, just behind a front man, could actually be quite rewarding, not only for Kudus but for Ferguson as well. And you could do it, you change it again. You can go with a 4-1-4-1 formation where you have Alvarez as the pivot in front of the back four. And then you've got your four, you push Souček further up front, again, supporting Ferguson as the striker. And again, as I've shown there, put Bowen on the right rather than Kudus, and put Kudus in a more central role. I mean, what's this is doing now by having players back from injury and just bringing in, I mean, I know I haven't mentioned Ward Prowse, but you're going to have the likes of Ward Prowse on the bench, a good option to have. And one thing a lot of people may have missed out on is by bringing Ward Prowse back, should we need, I mean, one thing we haven't done in the transfer window is we didn't bring any cover in for defense. I thought maybe we would have got maybe another loan player, a central defender, but we didn't do that. But what Ward Prowse can do for us is that it means that if need be, Alvarez can play at the back. We know that he's played as a central defender in his career before. And if need be, he could put Potter could put Alvarez there. And then that means you've got someone like Ward Prowse, an experienced player, playing in the pivot alongside the likes of Souček. So there's a lot of different ways that Potter can utilize the squad he's got available to him. And of course, you've got still the likes of, other players like Soler, Guilherme on the bench, etc., who are available. And whilst we still have the imminent returns of Crescencio Somerville and Nicholas Füllkrug. Now, we've already heard that Somerville could be another 8 weeks away before returning to action, but it's hoped that actually it won't be that long. Many feel that the 8 weeks that was quoted was already including the couple of weeks that has already been off because of injury. We're also aware that Nicholas Fulkrug could be back sooner as well after having a kick around with some kids over in Dubai. But there's a suggestion that he might be back sooner rather than later too. But even without Somerville and Fulkrug for the immediate future, the return of Ward Prowse, like I said, is a good foil for Potter to be able to use him in midfield should we have Alvarez needed further back. Um, Perhaps Potter is thinking of something like that. Maybe that's why he wasn't too. I'm sure he would have liked to have had a central defender come in, but maybe he thought he's got enough players in the squad to be able to accommodate. Now, of course, injuries can indeed strike us again. We seem to have more than our fair share of injuries lately. So here's hoping that we don't suffer too many more. But all of a sudden, as I've said, Potter's choices at the next game against Brentford and moving forward for the rest of the season is looking pretty good. Now, what we have seen from Potter and the team is that no matter who is selected to start and who is on the bench, the endeavour and the fight has returned. And he talked about that in his interview as well. Potter acknowledged also what the fans want to see is a team putting in the effort and fighting for each other. Potter has also insisted that he also wants to see a team that is playing good, attacking, possession-based football in an attractive style. And again, that's music to West Ham fans' ears. And that's all we want. Well, of course, we want a few points on the board as well. But in general, despite the fact that we've only won one game under Potter, things are kind of looking up. And especially with all these players returning from injury. The players seem happier. The fans are getting their singing voices back. The remaining 14 games of this season are all of a sudden something to look forward to, especially with Potter having an abundance of talented players to select from after they return from their injuries. It's going to be interesting to see what he does for the game against Brentford with all these players returning. I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you are too. I'll be back with the West Ham Weekly on Monday nights, so do look out for that. If you're new to this channel, please do subscribe to the channel. It really helps subscription. Also, please make sure you hit the like button because that helps with the algorithms in YouTube as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Please do leave your comments as to what you think about the players returning and what lineup would you like to see with all these players coming back. What would be your favoured 11 and what formation as well? Thank you all for watching and listening, and I will see you all soon.